New at 11, a judge has dismissed a lawsuit over FAMU's presidential search. Last June, several FAMU alumni sued the Board of Trustees, claiming the search was rigged for now President Marvin Johnson. They wanted the judge to order an independent investigation into that search. The plaintiff's attorney pointed to all the concerns raised during the search, including by plaintiff and then board member Ernie Ellison. He says the board refused to act on those concerns. However, an attorney argued there was no legal basis for an investigation. The judge said the plaintiffs lacked standing